Hello and welcome to our May monthly council meeting for Corangamite Shire. I'm Kate Macon, the Mayor of Corangamite Shire, and I'll introduce the rest of the team that I have around the table today. So I have Deputy Mayor Laurie Hickey, Councillor Ruth Constrain, Councillor Joe Beard, Councillor Jamie Vogels, Councillor Geraldine Canady, and Councillor Nick Cole. And the directors and managers around the table today are Mr Sean Broadbent, Director of Works and Services, Miss Justine Lindley, Director of Sustainable Development, Mr Stephen Welsh, Manager of Information Services, Mr John Kelly, Manager of Asset and Planning, Mr David Harrington, Director of Corporate and Community Services, Mr Andrew Neal, Manager of Regulatory Services, and Ms Catherine Anderson, Manager of Governance and Civic Support. And also in the gallery we have today Ms Katie McMahon, Manager of Economic and Prosperity, and Ms Belinda Burnett, Manager of Environment and Emergency. And I can't forget Mr David Ray, our CEO. Sorry, David. The show wouldn't run without you. I'll move on to the prayer. We ask for guidance and blessing on this council. May the true needs and well-being of our communities be our concern. Help us, who serve as leaders, to remember that all our decisions are made in the best interest of the people, the culture and the environment of the Corangamite Shire. Amen. Corangamite Shire Council acknowledges and pays our respects to the Eastern Maar and Wadawurrung peoples. As the traditional owners of the land that we work, live and play, we also acknowledge their elders, past and present, and recognise their ongoing cultural, spiritual and educational practices. Mr CEO, do we have any apologies today?
Madam Mayor, there are no apologies for today's meeting.
And do we have any conflicts of interest?
Madam Mayor, we have conflicts of interest declared in relation to item 8.2, and that is declarations by yourself and Councillor Cole. And in relation to item 8.3, Councillor Beard has declared a conflict of interest.
Excellent, thank you. Moving on to item number 5, confirmation of minutes for the 22nd of April 2025. Do I have a mover for that one, please? Councillor Cole, do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Hickey, all those in favour? Carried, thank you. So we have a few, we're on to deputations, and we have a few deputations today. So firstly, we have on agenda item 8.4, the planning permit application PP 2025/075 for 44 Lawrence Street in Camperdown, the 4-lot subdivision. I call up Mr Riley Skeen. You have 5 minutes and I'll give you a minute warning when that's left. Thank you, Riley.
Hey guys, I'm Riley from Treehab. We bought 44 Lawrence Street about 18 months ago with a plan to subdivide, which is why I'm in front of you guys today. It was purchased with an intent to address the housing need that I'm sure most of you can agree is currently needed in Camperdown. But we want to maintain, number one, the heritage of Camperdown being such an old town, and we've been part of my family's been here for over 150 years, so it's really important to us that we maintain that. When we chose the block size of just over 500 square metres, we looked at what was in the street, and it ranges from between 300 to 1,000 square metres. So we thought that 500 square metre range was perfect for single level, 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom family homes that we're still working on designing because we want them to fit into the street. But we haven't lodged a building permit yet. This is just for the planning permit for the subdivision. Eastern Maar Corporation, we did a CHMP report, or a Cultural Heritage Management Plan, which Eastern Maar was happy with. The CFA are happy with it. And the other thing I just wanted to let the objectors know too is that there's no confusion around the name of the business. The name of the business that owns the property is Treehab Tiny Houses. We don't plan on building tiny homes on the block. We plan on building family dwellings. But if anyone has any questions or wants to reach out, I'm more than happy to have a chat.
Thank you, Riley. Sorry, it's not a question and answer, it's just a give a statements.
No, so, no worries at all.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that, Mrs. Skeen. Next on, I'll call on agenda item 8.2, planning permit application PP 2024-103-451 Melrose Road, Corangamite 2-lot subdivision. And while I'm speaking, both myself and Councillor Cole have a conflict. My conflict is that the applicant is a client of my husband's business. And Councillor Cole, your conflict is?
Neighbour. and timber.
So Councillor Cole and I will head out while Mr. Blaine, you head up to the lectern and give you a 5-minute speech. Thank you.
Good afternoon all. My name is Darren Blaine. We own the property at 451 Melrose Road, and thank you for allowing me the opportunity to put a case forward for the subdivision. There's a few reasons for the subdivision. Number one, our farm is 78 acres. It's too small to be sold as a dairy farm. You can only milk about 150 cows. And in this climate today, it's not affordable for anyone to borrow the money to milk 150 cows and pay it off. So there's a number of reasons we want the subdivision. I've met with most of the councillors on site, so we've been through a few reasons. Geraldine was the only one, but I did phone Geraldine. The subdivision allows the land to be sold as an outpaddock at a reduced price. So if you're trying to sell it as all in one, as a dairy price, but it can only be used as an outpaddock, you're never going to be able to sell it. Okay, so this is to make it affordable as an outpaddock. It will remain in agriculture and pasture-based agriculture. The house will be retained as a rental property. For locally employed people, I've already had 2 lots of farms that want to rent it. They have for quite a while, but we can't at the moment. And we're also able to continue with primary production. So we have calf rearing facilities there, existing ones, which will allow us to be able to rear the calves from birth to weaning. Then they go to our other 2 blocks at Warrior Road and Timboon to be finished and sold. So that it maintains the farmer's primary production, and it keeps us in primary production with our other land, and the house is there for rental. For the ones we've spoken to, I've got some problems with a neighbour who pumped the dam out on me in December. We've had threats from that neighbour to our family, which causes us an enormous amount of emotional and mental stress. And it is very difficult to work there under those circumstances. The reason the subdivision should be approved, the farm will be sold as an outpaddock and pasture-based farming. The water usage requirements drop by about 70 to 80%. So if you think of a dairy cow, it uses about 35 to 40% of its body weight in water. A yearling or a heifer, so not milking, use 12 to 13% of their body weight in water, required 12 to 13% of their body weight in water. We can continue primary production in line with clause 02 of the Municipal Planning Strategy Clause 2.01, which, anyway. The house is a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 2-living area house with an attached 3.5-car garage. If the permit is being denied, it would certainly impact on our family's mental health and physical health. I've brought this up before, but I'm sure that the councillors have a duty of care to the health, safety and well-being of all its ratepayers, and this is one of those exceptions. There are a lot of farmers in trouble, so if the dire circumstances do not improve with the drought conditions that are going on and the lack of water, there will be a lot of farms that will be sold. You cannot buy hay, you cannot buy water. As we've already seen, the farmers have sold out, and one of those companies is the tree companies. The council has refused subdivisions on them before. Most of them are abandoned, or almost all of them are abandoned and derelict. And there's reportedly squatters that occupying at least one of them. Unfortunately, there'll be a lot of farms that may end up with the same predicament if circumstances don't change. I have a question, which it's not a question and answer thing, but there's been 6 subdivisions within a 5 kilometre radius of our property, and ours has been refused. Just a question why, but no one's going to answer, so it really doesn't matter. The Shire's planning strategy all focus on land protection for agriculture. The subdivision allows for this to be maintained in the way of well-preserved pasture-based outpaddock and a dwelling to service the shortage of rental accommodations. That's about it. Thank you very much for your time.
Moving on. And lastly, we have another deputation for agenda item 8.3, planning permit application PP 2025/108, 2 Hurleys Road and 58 Cuthberts Road, Scarborough, 2-lot subdivision. Mr. Ricks, do you want...
Sorry, through you, Madam Mayor.
I'm about to come that way. Go, Councillor
Yep,
Beard.
sorry. I'm declaring conflict of interest. So my son is employed by one of the applicants, being Mr. Ricks's son.
It's nothing to do with our son. It's nothing to do with
His name was on the application, so
yeah.
sorry.
Mr. Ricks, would you like to come out? Thanks.
I'm John Ricks, that's straight over there, and we put the application in. Thanks for your time today and for doing the site visit the other day, very much appreciated. The realignment of the boundaries, so it's under 2 titles at the moment. Sam owns 10 acres and we own 23 acres. We can't make any money out of 23 acres. So we want to realign it so the horse training facility, the track, and everything goes onto one title. And then we have a 5-acre title down the bottom corner, and we'll put that in with a housing plan and access to the road. The notice went out to all the neighbours and relevant authorities, and there's been no objections to the application at all. Sorry, I'm going blind. The change will give a 5-acre block and a 28-acre allotment. The 28 acres, we can actually, it's going as a horse training facility now, and will continue to do that. And the 5-acre lot will be with a house with a view to sell it in the future. We view this as a reasonable request, and thank you for your time today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ricks. Can someone get Councillor Beard in, please? So we move on to committee reports. So 7.1 is the Audit and Risk Committee Independent Member Appointment. Mr. Harrington.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. So this report is to recommend the appointment of an independent member to Council's Audit and Risk Committee. Recently, an independent member has resigned from the committee, which has given rise to a vacancy on the committee. The committee charter sets out the requirements for the appointment of a new independent member. The process involved the release of an expression of interest in April 2025, with applications received and reviewed against the key selection criteria. An interview panel was established consisting of the Mayor, the chairperson from the committee, and the Manager of Governance and Civic Support. The panel interviewed the applicants and, based on its evaluation, recommends the appointment of Mr. Eric Peterson to the committee. Mr. Peterson has the necessary skills and qualifications to serve on the committee, particularly in project management and governance. His skills will complement the other independent members of the committee, and he is a resident of the Shire with experience in local government. Mayor, the recommendation is before you.
Thank you, Mr. Harrington. Councillors, there's a recommendation before us. Do I have a mover for that one, please? Councillor Canady, do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Hickey, Councillor Canady.
Thank you, Mayor. I think the report told us everything we needed to know, really. But I would say that the Audit and Risk committee actually absolutely plays a very important role in our organisation and in supporting we councillors, with their recommendations and opinion on some of the decisions that come before us and policy that comes before us. But of course, the balance of skills and expertise on the Audit and Risk Committee is very important, so that you've got a range of views and experience and knowledge at the table. So it seems, I'm confident with the selection of Mr. Peterson that those complementary skill set and competence will be there and will be very valuable on the committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kennedy. Councillor
Very happy to second this recommendation, Mayor. I've no doubt, I have every confidence that due diligence has been done and the correct applicant has been selected, so happy to second this recommendation.
No worries. Thank you, Councillor Hickey. I would just like to say thank you to Jim Gifford for all the time and effort and expertise he brought to the Audit and Risk Committee. It's very well appreciated. And I am looking forward to working with Mr. Peterson, and as Councillor Kennedy said, the Audit and Risk team really do help us councillors with strong governance, financial oversight and managing risks. So Mr. Peterson will give us committee some strength in the project management field and the governance skills as well. So I'm looking forward to him bringing those skills to the Audit and Risk team. So I look forward to working with Mr. Peterson at the next council Audit and Risk meeting, should I say. Councillors, is there any other comments? If not, I'll put the recommendation to a vote. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. I move on to 8.1, Planning Scheme Amendment C68, Timboon Precinct Plan. Mr. Neild.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. The Timboon Precinct Plan was adopted by Council in August 2024. A planning scheme amendment has now been prepared to implement policy changes into the Corangamite planning scheme. This report presents a recommendation to seek authorisation from the Minister of Planning and to proceed with public exhibition of Planning Scheme Amendment C68 in accordance with the Planning Environment Act. Madam Mayor, the recommendation is before you.
Thank you, Mr. Neild. Councillors, there's a recommendation for you. Do I have a mover for that one, please? Councillor Vogels. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Gastrone. Councillor Vogels.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this is the Timboon Precinct Plan Amendment. This is a vision. This is a plan for the future of Timboon Town Centre, highlighting the actions and opportunities that at a high level, so the future projects are able to be developed to the benefit of the local community. And thanks to all community members who engaged with Council to help shape and ensure Timboon's vision was captured in line with the local input from the many and various opportunities that Council provided. The Council provided this motion is to seek approval from the Minister to put the plan on exhibition for public comment and submissions, and encourage people, if this goes through and if the Minister approves it, to go out to have a look and go through that and make submissions.
Thank you, Councillor Vogels. Councillor Gastrone.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think Councillor Vogels must have had my notes over there since I've ticked everything off, but I was pleased to see that there has been discussion with the Department of Transport and Planning to look at the Barrett Street, Bailey Street intersection, which I know is problematic. I think one of the really good things come out of this precinct plan, or vision as Councillor Vogels calls it, which it really is about improvements for accessibility for everybody. So, yeah, happy to second it and send it away for the Minister, and let's hope we can put it out for public comment and get some feedback.
That'd be great. Thank you, Councillor Gastrone. Any other comments? If not, I'll put the recommendation to a vote. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. I move on to item 8.2, which is the planning permit application PP 2024-103, 451 Melrose Road, Corangamite, 2-lot subdivision. Councillor Cole and myself will remove ourselves, and I'll pass it over to the Deputy Mayor. Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Mayor. So, Council's item 8.2, the planning permit application for 451 Melrose Road, Corangamite. Mr. Neild, please.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, and through you. Planning permit application PP 024-103 seeking approval for a two-lot subdivision at 451 Melrose Road, Corangamite, was put to Council for a decision at the ordinary meeting on 22nd of April 2025. Council resolved to defer the matter. No further information has been submitted to Council's planning unit in relation to the planning permit application, and the matter is now before Council for a decision. It is recommended that Council issue a notice of decision to refuse to grant a planning permit. Mr Deputy Mayor, the recommendation is before you.
Thank you very much, Mr Neal. Councillors, the recommendation is before you. Do I have someone to move that recommendation, please?
I move that, Mr Mayor, as Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Australian. Someone like to second that motion, that recommendation, please? Councillor Kennedy. Councillor Australian.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. This is a tricky one. We deal with these on and off, several of these applications recently, and this one with the size of the land and the effort that's been made by Mr and Mrs Blaine, and we heard from them earlier. It is a smaller lot, is 10 acres. There is a dairy that's going to be decommissioned, which is good, but what it does do is it removes this, the smaller lot doesn't have any direct contact or connection with the adjoining larger lot, which could be sold off separately. Here in Corangamite, we've just submitted our Grow Corangamite planning amendment to the Minister, and this is to protect agriculture in the southern part of the Shire, and as Mr Blaine said, protecting agriculture is something that's absolutely vital. I appreciate that there are family impacts, and that's very concerning, but unfortunately it's not something that we can address through the planning scheme. So I support the officer's recommendation to refuse this permit.
Thank you, Councillor Australian. Councillor Kennedy, if there's something to add.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yes, I agree with Councillor Australian. These decisions are never easy, and I will say we do appreciate the opportunity to go out on site visits with some of these, and also thank you, Mr Blaine, for your deputation. We do listen to what's being said, but ultimately these decisions must always come back to planning, and we must look through the lens of planning, and we must remember how important the policy and controls of our municipal planning scheme are, and why they have evolved in the way they have. So, yeah, that's kind of where my mind always goes back to, because those policy controls have evolved over time. They're thought through very carefully, and they take in a very broad scope in terms of how they're applied. So their purpose is very important, and there's good reason that we need to keep it in mind when we are making planning decisions. In this case, we need to think about does this decision fit with the NPS, and remember that long-term view that I've spoken to. Is it compelling in a good planning context? That's another thing we need to be mindful of, particularly as it's in the farming zone. Over time, we've found even in Corangamite that long-term fragmentation in the farming zone has proven to be a poor planning outcome, and my knowledge is that that's one of the reasons our NPS has evolved in the way it has to manage these kinds of applications in a proper way. I have got some other remarks here. I don't know if they're useful to the argument anymore. But compatibility is a very important consideration. There's no use speculating on some matters that have been raised, but I've looked at the officer's assessment, and I have to say that I agree with the officer's assessment not to grant a permit for this application. I don't think that excision would advance an agricultural outcome on that small lot. Thank you.
Thank
Deputy
you,
Mayor.
Councillor Kennedy. Any further comments, Councillor Beard?
Thank you, and through you, Deputy Mayor. I have to agree with both Councillor Gastrone and Councillor Kennedy with this one, and I know how much effort goes into these reports when it comes to the officer recommendations and just the effort that they put into making sure that the outcome that they're looking for is what's in the best interest of Corangamite as a whole. We've been working really hard the last couple of years to protect agriculture, knowing it's our number one industry. And it would, for me, it would go against what we're trying to protect, and that's preventing the fragmentation of prime agricultural land. Speculation is such a key word. I've actually highlighted it. We could have speculation around, could potentially the land that's being subdivided be, provided to trees, which is what one of the arguments were. But then there's also the speculation around, would the land being held onto, would it still continue to be used for agricultural purposes? And again, it's all speculation, which we can't take into account when we're making these decisions. It's really important that we respect our planning scheme and the work and effort that not only us as council have put in, but we've had community feedback around this, and we're guided by community feedback around how they want to see our planning scheme being being adhered to. I do really sympathise with Mr Blaine, Darren and his family for what they're dealing with on a personal level with the altercations they're having in a neighbouring sense. But as Councillor Gastrone said, we can't make our decisions based on that. Planning is pretty black and white when it comes to our cans and can'ts. And in this case, as you know, in this particular one, it does pull at the heartstrings, but we have to look at the bigger picture, and that's why we've got a planning scheme, a rule book in front of us. So I want to thank the planning officers for the recommendation, and I'll be supporting that.
Thank you, Councillor Beard. Anything further, councillors? Councillor Vogel.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I won't be going with the officer's recommendation and foreshadow a alternate motion which has been shared. The alternate motion is, in short, brings up all the required permits and various other things for wastewater and power and stuff to achieve a subdivision with a section 173 that doubles down on the need for a right to farm if it was to be bought by someone who was on the edge of not liking agriculture. But that's once again a speculation. Speculation is also that something bad to agriculture will happen from a subdivision of land to a house. I think the planning isn't black and white. It's very, very variable and up for a lot of interpretation. It's a very static document, and it's a very dynamic situation we live in agriculture. Certainly subdivisions, we don't want subdivisions of houses all over the place, but some incidences in specific locations are very valuable to agriculture, where our service providers can set up with various machinery that probably doesn't want to be seen in town. But these are things that you can not speculate on who's moving in, but you can provide the opportunities. And I think this is an opportunistic spot for this type of thing. If I find the Allen note I've got here for clause 14.01-1L. Now, one of the things it says here is it discourages the excisions of lots unless all the following apply. And part A is it can be demonstrated the farming can be continued on the balance of the lot unhindered. I think it ticks the box there that the farm in its current state is not large enough to be a viable dairy farm. It definitely has massive water issues due to current problems after we visit the site, but it would provide enough water to be an out paddock, and like Darren was saying before, without the house, can bring the price down to an affordable level for someone to have an out paddock, enough water to run young stock. That there is not enough water to run a dairy farm, especially, or even outside of drought. You would still struggle to run a dairy due to current situation. Number two would be the dwelling is not required for farming use of the property. As an out paddock, it would not require the dwelling to be part of that. The dwelling is habitable condition, yes. The dwelling is at the front of the property, yes. The dwelling is serviced by a road, is serviced by a really good bitumen road in a good strategic spot for service providers to industry. The lot is designed in a manner that does not prejudice surrounding rural productive activities, and I believe that's not the case either. And discourage excisions that create long, narrow lots of battle axes. That's a tick as well. It doesn't do that. And the last one is seeks to ensure that the excision of the dwelling and creation of a lot smaller than what is specified in schedule to the farming zone, i.e. 40 hectares, is consistent with the purpose of the zone. And that one's borderline, but I think on the whole, and I think I've shown over time that it's not a blanket decision, it's a considered decision depending on location and other variables. So I will not be supporting the officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Vogel. Councillor Castrone, a lot of reply. Do you have anything further you'd like to add?
No, I think it's all been said.
Okay, I think it has been too. So with that all being said, I will call for the vote, and I'll ask for everybody who's in favour to raise their hand. And those against? So the recommendation is carried.
Did you vote? Sorry, Deputy Mayor.
But I don't vote, do I?
Yes, you do.
Yes, you do.
Oh.
Yes, you vote.
You have to do the vote again.
All those in favour? Those against?
Oh, do it again.
Sorry.
Carried.
Feel that down.
No.
Remember that.
You learn something every day.
Oh, yeah.
You can have something in
What are we up to?
difficult situation.
Up to 8.3, planning permit application PP 2025-018, 2 Hurleys Road and 58 Cuthberts Road, Skybo, 2 lot subdivision. Councillor Bean, would you like to leave the room, please? And I'll hand it over to Mr. Neild. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. Council must consider a planning permit application seeking approval for a 2-lot subdivision and use and development of land for a dwelling at 2 Hurleys Road and 58 Cuthberts Road, Skibbo. The application has been assessed against the Corangamite planning scheme. It is considered that the proposal to create a rural residential lot in this location is not justified and does not provide an acceptable response to the relevant strategic direction, policy and controls of the planning scheme. It is recommended that Council issue a notice of decision to refuse to grant a permit. Madam Mayor, the recommendation is before you.
Thank you, Mr. Neild. Councillors, there's a recommendation before you. Do I have a mover for that one, please? Oh, Councillor Hickey, sorry.
Councillor, Mayor, I'd like to foreshadow an alternate motion.
No, you'd like to present an alternate
I'd
motion.
like to present an alternate motion.
Yeah, no worries. And what is your alternate motion?
That the recommendation be accepted, that the planning division goes through.
Okay, no worries. Do we have a seconder for that one, do we think? Or would like some bit more clarification, a bit more information?
I think if Councillor Hickey's got a motion, that he
Yes.
needs to have perhaps briefly summarise what his motion is so that we can second it.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, I'd like to move that the council, having given notice for the planning permit application number PP 2025/101018 under the Planning Environmental Act, where is it going to skip down to the bottom bit here, known as, I've lost it here, excuse me.
It's okay. It's all right. It's on your tongue.
So it's a motion to approve the planning application.
That's right, it's a motion to
with
approve
conditions.
with conditions, yes, and I'm happy to outline those conditions if there's a seconder.
Do
I'll
I have
second it.
Councillor Castrane's going to second it, so you can.
Okay, thank you very much.
Explain your motion.
So
That'd be great, thank you.
the motion I'd like to move is that we accept this this subdivision proposal with the conditions that have been circulated through all the councils, and basically those subdivision conditions are around the utility, around the easement conditions, around certification, environmental health with wastewater management, and vehicle access and on-site disposal of wastewater, water supply, electricity supply, stormwater drainage, and the expiry date of the subdivision permit. Councillors, this is an area that is very much 2 kilometres or less than 2 kilometres from the township of Camperdown. It is marked with small allotments along the Cuthberts Road, and indeed that whole area to the west of Camperdown. A 28 hectare farm is not really a viable, or 25 hectare acre farm is not really viable for any farming needs in mainstream. However, it does suit the ability for someone to be able to train horses and the like. A 5 hectare lot allows for a development of a house with shedding associated with the building, and the very fact that it is already very small subdivisions and marked with a number of houses. I think there's 6 or 7 along Cuthberts Road already, and a number on Hurley's Road. That it's not against what is the amenity of the area. So, with all that said, in a very clumsy way, Madam Mayor, I'd like to move this alternate motion.
No worries, Councillor Higgy. Councillor Castrane.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thanks, Councillor Hickey, for outlining your motion. Yes, I support the issuing of approval of a permit in this case. Similarly to the previous one, we need to judge each application on its merits, and it just makes sense that the horse training track and the shedding be consolidated, and that there is a 2 hectare lot created for a dwelling. This is, as Councillor Hickey said, very close to the town settlement boundary, and there are a number of smaller lots surrounding this property, and while there's no direct link to agriculture, the surrounding uses are not limited just to ag industry. This is in fact really a realignment of boundaries, and I think that considering the lots around that area that range from 38 hectares to 2 hectares, I think it's appropriate in this case. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Castrane. Councillors, any other comments?
Yeah,
Councillor Canady?
Just a small addition to what's already been said. I do support the alternate motion as well. Just a little remark. I do think it absolutely is in the context of the existing development in the area, and really, whilst it is in the farming zone, no agriculture of any significant scale can occur in that area now because of the way development has proceeded over the last 10 or 15 years, whatever. So I think it definitely fits the context of the area, and I think it's very appropriate.
Thank you, Councillor Canady. Councillors, is there any other comments? If not, I'll put the recommendation to a vote. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Can we get Councillor Beard back in, please? Radio. We'll move on to item 8.4, planning permit application PP 2024/075, 44 Lawrence Street in Camperdown, 4 lot subdivision. Mr. Neald again.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. Council must consider a planning permit application for a 4 lot subdivision at 44 Lawrence Street, Camperdown. Public notice of the application was given and 7 objections were received. The application has been assessed against the Corangamite planning scheme, and the key issues raised in the objections have been considered. It is recommended that Council issue a notice of decision to grant a permit subject to conditions. Madam Mayor, the recommendation is before you.
Thank you, Mr Neal. Councillors, do I have a mover for that recommendation, please? Councillor Castrain, and I have seconded Councillor Hickey. Councillor Castrain.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and appreciate that we had 7 objections to this application and had the site meeting, which very pleased that the scheme family were able to attend, as well as one of the objectors. And I think that where a lot of the concern has come from neighbours has been tying, as Mr Skene mentioned in his presentation earlier, is tying the tiny houses, Treehab as the applicant, and I think that people thought that there was going to be wall-to-wall tiny houses across that half-acre block. That's not the case. We've got four lots to be created, just over 500 square metres, and certainly it's within the remit of the Camperdown Settlement Plan about infill development, and particularly these blocks are very well sited to the main street, to hospitals, to schools, to the station. You know, you can get around quite easily, and that's what we're certainly looking at, is that infill development. We're very keen on having walkable neighbourhoods, and as I said, this is a very walkable distance for those people who are looking at buying these houses. And we're talking about 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms with a shed, so it's certainly not a tiny house, and I think it'll fit nicely in that area. There's a diversity of lot sizes in that particular part of town, and I think this will certainly complement the area. So happy to move, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Castrain. Councillor Hickey.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Yes, I think 500 square metres is a good size for a block within that area. Obviously, that block's unsubdivided is a very, very large block that could be used for a better purpose, as this subdivision is aiming to have. The objections have been listed and have been listened to. We did have a site meeting where I was able to hear firsthand from the objectors. But I think the fears were allayed when the distinction was made between the naming of the business and what was proposed. So again, we're not voting on what's going to be built there. That's a whole separate title, a whole separate discussion altogether. But we're looking at purely the subdivision to allow development there, and I think it's a good thing, and I have no trouble seconding the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Hickey. Councillors, is there any other comments? If not, I'll put the recommendation to a vote. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. I'll move on to item officers' reports. So 9.1, Council Internal Resolution Procedures. Ms Anderson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. The Council Internal Resolution Procedure is required to be adopted in accordance with Section 140 of the Local Government Act 2020 and Regulation 12A of the Local Government Governance and Integrity Regulations 2020. The procedure is a mechanism for potential breaches of the Model Councillor Code of Conduct to be dealt with internally to the councillors, therefore minimising costs and disruptions of disputes to council and individual councillors, and where possible avoiding disputes escalating and becoming the subject of internal arbitration. This procedure is required to be adopted by 1 July 2025. Madam Mayor, the recommendation is before you.
Thank you, Ms Anderson. Councillors, there's a recommendation before us. Do I have a mover, please? Councillor Beard and Councillor Castrain second. Councillor Beard.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. I was happy to hold off a little bit if you wanted to go with this one. I've got some very scribbly notes, and I'm going to try and understand what I've done. Look, I actually don't mind this policy. I had to think about it at the time when we briefed on it. And I thought, oh, here we go, under the Local Government Act, here's another policy that we have to introduce. But it's not dissimilar to what we've currently had in place under our previous Code of Conduct. But to me, it's all about, we don't need to air our dirty laundry for other places to see. And I think back over the years to where there's been some instances where councils have had issues within the chamber, and before you know it, it's splashed across the front page of the paper. I look at this as a way of just making sure that we adhere to doing everything we can to contain that, and I think we're really fortunate. We've got a council that's very respectful of each other anyway. I think we've got a great culture here. But this was a case of we had to come up with this. So we've had to do it but I actually, as I said, I don't think it's a bad thing. It does set out parameters and a framework unto which we can follow. But it's not really that new to us. It's just the way it's been formulated and probably some of the terminology in it, perhaps. But I do think it does protect not only us, but more so our community from having to, as I said, where it's been happened in other places where you just, it's not good for anybody if you haven't got a council adhering to the respect for each other. So happy to move this one, and it'll be another tick of another policy that we've had to adopt through the most recent Local Government Act, but happy to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Beard. Councillor Castrain?
I just hope we never have to use it, Madam Mayor.
Very true.
Yes, yeah.
True.
That's all I've got to say.
Any other comments? If not, put the recommendation to a vote. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. I move on to item 9.2, Swimming Pool Maintenance Policy, May 2025. Mr Broadbent.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. This report recommends that Council adopt an updated swimming pool maintenance policy. The policy outlines the maintenance responsibilities of Council, contractors and local swimming pool committees. Only minor updates are proposed, however the policy is important in support of the effective management of our 6 public swimming pools. The updated policy will ensure the pools remain safe, accessible and well-maintained community assets. It is recommended that the revised policy is adopted. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Broadbent. Councillors, there's a recommendation before us. Do I have a mover for that one, please? Oh, Councillor Hickey and Councillor Beard, sorry. Councillor Hickey.
Not much to add really. It is an updated policy. The maintenance, of course, is always into the fore of our mind because the pools were built around that 1950s in response to our success for the Olympic Games in that fabulous year. So it's just a matter of changing the policy, so I'm happy to move this recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Hickey. Councillor Beard.
Thank you through you, Madam Mayor. Pretty much some cosmetic changes, but as long as I'm here and there's a maintenance policy still coming up every few years, and it means that we're still supporting our pools, so I'm all in favour of the maintenance policy, and it's going to be great to see as we go through the agenda that we get an update on our pool season. And there we'll be able to see the proof as to why we need to continue to invest in our pools.
Thank you, Councillor Beard. Any other comments? If not, I'll put the...
Well, I do just one little comment, just to say thank you to the pool committee, people who are volunteering rather on the pool committees, because whilst they're not actually involved with maintenance, there is some liaison with council with their work when they notify us of things that might need to be done and so on. But we all know how much our pools are loved, and of course proper maintenance is a very important thing for the safety of our users as well.
Thank you, Councillor Kennedy. No other comments? I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Item 9.3, Open Data Access Policy. Mr Welsh.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. The review of the Open Data Policy is before you. It was developed to enable public access to council data while protecting council from legal and financial risks, and also protecting the privacy and the rights of individuals. Open data is still a growing trend in Australia and more so around the world. It is expected that the continued release of government data will provide the following benefits: stimulate economic activity and drive innovation, increase productivity and business decision making, improving research outcomes from improved access to data, easier sharing of data with other parties, and improve the efficiency and effectiveness of government. There have only been minor changes made to the policy to reflect updated links to reference sites and titles in the workflow diagrams at the end. The recommendation is before you.
Thank you, Mr Welsh. Councillors, there's a recommendation. Do I have a mover for that one, please? Councillor Castrain. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Vogels. Councillor Castrain.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you to Mr Welsh, who makes his every 4 years visit to the council meeting to bring this policy. Certainly open data access is really important, as Mr Welsh has outlined, and public sector information is a resource that should be available for community access. You really don't want to have to keep reinventing the wheel every time we want to get some work underway, and it can be used in many ways, whether it's research, it's innovation or improving productivity. I think I read in the report we've got 26 data sets available from council around trees, accessible buildings, roads, drains, parks, etc. that's available for public access. So happy to move this policy with minor changes. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Castrain. Councillor Vogels?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I also think it's important that we share data as long as you're keeping out stuff for privacy, security, confidentiality. I think we're in the public sector and we need to be transparent as possible. Sharing information as much as possible provides transparency, as well as allowing for other organisations to keep on top of data. So that's where statistics come from, which make up a lot of decisions. So more than happy to support this.
Thank you, Councillor Vogels. Any other comments? If not, recommendation to vote. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Item 9.4, Asset Management Policy. Mr Kelly.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor, this report seeks council adoption to the updated asset management policy. Effective asset management is essential to ensuring the long-term financial sustainability of council, its assets and the services delivered to the community. The policy provides a clear strategic direction and outlines the key principles that will guide council in managing its assets responsibly and sustainably. The policy applies to all council maintained assets such as local roads, footpaths, buildings, playgrounds, street furniture. It's recommended that the council adopt the updated asset management policy as presented.
Thank you, Mr Kelly. Councillors, there's a recommendation. Do I have a mover, please? Councillor Beard, do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Cole. Councillor Beard.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. Thanks, Mr Kelly, for your report. This is one of those policies that really do underpin a lot of work that we do, and particularly what informs our budget, but more importantly because of the asset management plans that this policy wraps itself around. So I guess I am probably going to take a swipe at the state government here. When we often have when we chat about the roads and things like that, we rely heavily on our data and the fact that we have an asset management plan which is governed by our policy. And this is where we say we have to be obligated to do certain things because that's what we have set out to do, because we have a policy to say we're going to do it. Whether that be through our roads, drains, bridges, halls, sporting facilities, even playgrounds. All of those we have to be accountable for and the way in which we manage those. So I guess that's where we sometimes take a bit of a backhand at the state government, because we'll often say, well, where's your management plan or management policy on what you have to look after? Because I feel like there's one set of rules for us as opposed to them. So we highly regard and really respect this policy because it enables us to do what we have to do. It keeps us accountable and, I guess, transparent around the work we're doing, but also informs our budget, which is what our communities rely upon to, I guess, to have the best out of what services we provide, but more importantly, the infrastructure as well.
Thank you, Councillor Beard. Councillor Vogels? Oh, sorry, Councillor Cole, sorry.
Different haircut, sorry.
Sorry. Apologies.
Great, mate.
I completely agree with Councillor Beard on her comments, and I've lost my train of thought now completely. But our assets and our replacement of everything is so important. That's what keeps the Shire functioning, and if you're running any business, you have to always budget on replacing your assets and your equipment, because it does wear out. And as Councillor Beard said, the swipe at the government, they're not doing it. They're pulling their weight in the local areas at all in the country, fixing roads and repairing assets that need repairing, unfortunately. So as long as we keep doing our end of the bargain, people unfortunately keep driving on our roads rather than the state roads now, which is wearing our roads out, incurring more costs for the council. So but I completely agree, we've got to keep it up to, and I'm glad to see this policy's there to make sure that we keep in front of our maintenance and management. So, no
Thank you.
problem.
Councillor Cole, any other comments? Councillor Vogels now, sorry.
Thank you, Mayor. So just what are our assets? And our assets are the investment of previous councils, previous generations of people have put their time and money and effort into building these assets. And I think it's one of the main things that we need to do is maintain these assets to an acceptable level before you look at building new assets, unless they're replacement assets, which is renewing old assets. So it's just so important that previous generations show respect to for what they've put in and maintain it to an acceptable level.
Thank you, Councillor Vogels. Any other comments?
Well, just one
Councillor
small
Kennedy,
one.
yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, who's the comment?
Councillor Kennedy.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, just a small one. It's apart from what's already been said, like proper management of the assets that we have. It's also about managing our public funds properly too, in relation to that, because a lot of money can be spent if our assets aren't properly maintained. So I think that's an important element of it, that it's just that management of public funds in relation to our assets. Thank you.
No worries. Any other comments? Councillor Cole.
What I was going to say, sorry, Madam Mayor,
That's
I
right.
got confused, but as Councillor Kennedy just said, that's why we collect rates, and we're trying to responsibly spend those rates on the maintenance of the assets that we have, rather than some of the fluffy projects, so to speak, are nice to do and things, but they don't actually maintain the already established infrastructure that's so important to local communities getting around. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cole. There's no other comments. I'll put to a vote. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Item 9.5, inquiry into community consultation practices. Ms Lindley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Victorian Legislative Council Environment and Planning Committee is conducting an inquiry into community consultation practices in Victoria. This inquiry presents an opportunity to strengthen how governments, including government agencies and authorities, engage with communities to ensure consultation is inclusive, transparent and effective across all levels. The Municipal Association of Victoria is coordinating a submission, and officers have provided comment to the MAV. The comments relate to the following 6 themes, being restoring trust and building social licence, the role of local government, risks of outsourcing engagement, equity in engagement, improving the Engage Victoria online platform, and learning from best practice. This report proposes that Council authorise the Chief Executive Officer to also make a direct submission to the inquiry, which is due on the 4th of June. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Ms Lindley. Councillor, there's a recommendation. Do I have a mover for that one, please? Councillor Castrain. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Beard. Councillor Castrain.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Mrs Lindley. I think this inquiry has highlighted the importance to build trust and be clear on the purpose of the consultation. That it's just the consultation is actually warranted, and it's not just an information giving session. I think there's nothing worse than having predetermined outcomes and then asking people for feedback and not having that feedback taken on board. I think that the Corangamite comment is really important too, because it does highlight the specific issues about rural municipalities and people in rural settings being able to take part and be engaged. And it comes down to the cost of consultation and the ability to access. As we know in our shire, there are a number of black spots where it's very difficult to get digital reception, or indeed if people have time to have face-to-face consultations and get on the train or get in the car and drive to Melbourne, it can certainly mount up from a financial point of view. I think the other concern that is highlighted is about the lack of transparency and the ability to have open dialogue and feedback, particularly when people who are involved in this consultation are forced to sign confidentiality agreements. I think that engagement consultation should be transparent, and we've highlighted that in our submission. So happy that we're putting our submission into Parliament.
Thank you, Councillor Castrain. Councillor Beard.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor, and not dissimilar to Councillor Castrain, so she's pretty much mentioned the majority of what I was going to allude to, but one of the other things is we've seen a classic example of where there wasn't, there wasn't any consultation, let alone the appropriate consultation with the emergency services levy is an example of where, had the appropriate stakeholders been involved in decision making, or at least what the implications could have been, then we could be saving ourselves a lot of time and heartache and potentially lives when people come together to help create the best planning. So I think what we see is there is a difference around the commitment that, particularly in local government and here at Corangamite, we've always made around our stakeholder engagement and how we highly regard it. So I think we need to take every opportunity we can by providing a submission along with what the MAV are doing, but one that's more relevant to our area, being in regards to how our rural communities need to be liaised with, and it can't just be one size fits all, and that's probably the biggest thing I would think that we need to make sure that they're aware of. But as I said, using an example of the emergency services levy, how a lot of heartache can be saved if we just can try and get things on the same page right from the beginning.
Thank you, Councillor Beard. Councillor Hickey?
Thank you, Mayor. I was reading through this document. One line that stuck in my mind was from the MAV comment, where it said it's a core pillar for maintaining public trust, and I think that's what this document is all about: maintaining public trust and being transparent, but also including the thoughts and the comments from our community. So it goes a long way to maintaining that public trust for my two, Bob.
Thank you. Any other comments? No. I'll put it to a vote. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. I move on to 9.6 Climate Change Action Plan. Ms Bennett.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. The purpose of this report is to present the Climate Change Action Plan for Council's consideration and adoption. This is a new 4-year plan that outlines projected impacts of climate change on our community, the current emissions produced by council operations as well as the broader community, and a number of actions to reduce our emissions as well as address climate risks. The plan has a total of 28 actions covering a whole range of areas, from actions that reduce council and community emissions, strengthening our preparedness to climate-based emergencies, strengthening climate resilient agriculture, and strengthening the resilience of council services to climate change. The plan has been developed to strongly align with the council's existing environment and sustainability strategy, and in developing the plan we also engaged with a climate change community reference group which included 6 community representatives. So it is important to acknowledge their very valuable input and insights which were critical to shaping the plan's actions. There's a recommendation before Council to adopt the plan.
Thank you, Ms Bennett. Councillors, there's a recommendation. Do I have a mover for that one, please? Councillor Vogels, do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Canady, Councillor Vogels.
Thank you, Mayor. And this is with input from briefings, workshops and other feedback from consultation process. Project consultants have taken the information on board and come up with our action plan. Now this is a 4-year program based on a 10-year action plan that was prepared by Ironbark Sustainability. Thus providing a guide to follow as we move forward with our emission reduction plan and address sustainability challenges in a thoughtful and measured way that are the most economically viable and create actual real world differences.
Thank you, Councillor Vogels. Councillor Canady.
Thank you, Mayor. Actually, it's actually a good read. I enjoyed reading this. There's a lot of interesting information. Pardon?
You sound surprised, Councillor Canadian.
Oh, well, there we are. But yeah, it's really quite interesting, some of the information in there. But I think what we have with this action plan is that we are taking responsibility by undertaking it and actually having actions in there that are aimed at reducing emissions and impact in the environment. And I like that the community has been included in this via support through that plan. Like there is, I haven't got the page in front of me now, but there is going to be some support provided to the community to help them with their emissions reduction as well. But we do have an incredibly broad suite of objectives and actions, so you really do need to sit down and give yourself a bit of time to read it. But also I was pleased to see that these actions also include preparedness for emergency response, something that we've had to deal with a number of times now, and also support for ag. So certainly I think it's really well written, and I'm very much in support of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Canady. Any other comments? I'll put the recommendation to a vote. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. I move on to 9.7, Lakes Recreation Reserve Master Plan. Mr Broadbent.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. This report recommends that Council adopt the Lakes Recreation Reserve Master Plan. The Master Plan has been developed through consultation with the user groups and the community. The draft Master Plan was released for public comment at the February Council meeting, with feedback closing on the 24th of April. 4 submissions were received, with alterations made to the Master Plan where appropriate. The Master Plan outlines a strategic 10-year vision for the future development and use of the reserve, identifying key priorities to improve facilities, promote participation and guide future investment. It is recommended that Council adopt the Lakes Recreation Reserve Master Plan. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Broadbent. Councillors, as a recommendation, do I have a mover, please? Councillor Castrain, Councillor Hickey. Councillor Castrain.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And this is a 10-year plan, excuse me, of the Lakes Reserve, and I thank all the user groups particularly and those who have contributed to putting this plan together. A number of key directions have been identified on this plan. Some of them are, one of the new ones that's just come in as a result of the consultation, public exhibition, is additional tree planting. So from that down to actually replacing the Golf Bowls Club as a potential project down the track. Number of user groups down there. It does get a lot of use. We particularly see in December when we have the horse trials, taking over the cricket ovals and the equine arena. Lots of visitors. Pleased to say that one of the key directions is upgrading the tennis club room and shelter area. It is to include a unisex toilet, but unfortunately the budget just didn't quite stretch that far. So there has been an allowance made in the 2005-2006 budget to do some work on the club room. So that's as a result of issues that have been identified. And also I noticed in one of the submissions that came in, it was about the cracking on the tennis courts. Well, I believe that's been addressed in the last few weeks. So a really good guiding document to lead the development of this Lakes Reserve for the next 10 years.
Thank you, Councillor Castrain. Councillor Hickey.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Happy to second this recommendation. The reserve is a very important part for recreation and for leisure within the community. So the Camperdown Golf Club, the Camperdown Bowls Club, the Hamden Tennis Association, Camperdown Cricket Club, Camperdown Horse Trials and Camperdown Pony Club, all co-users of this. And this is about community consultation, seeing what the needs of these organisations all are and placing it together in one very informative document. The whole concept of having a recreation reserve out of town was somewhat mooted back in the 80s, I recall, and it was quite controversial at the time, but I think since then it's been proven that it's a very valuable resource in a beautiful setting overlooking Lake Notuck and driving down between the lakes when you actually get there. There's certainly recognises that there are improvements that need to be made on many of the, or some of the buildings and some development of some of the others, but all in all I think it's a great facility, and this plan does set forward a 10-year reserve master plan to be able to achieve those to that end. So yeah, quite happy to second this document.
No worries, Councillor Hickey. Any other comments? Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm happy to move this too. I think most communities around Australia would absolutely kill for a location like that. It's extraordinary, it's scenic, it's got so many, it ticks so many boxes and is an absolute jewel in the crown of the area, and we'd be fools to sort of let it ride and just do nothing with it, and it should be developed as much as possible within keeping of the natural aesthetics of the area. It's an extraordinary gem in the crown as far as I can see. So, thank you.
Agree with you, Councillor Cole. Any other comments? If not, I put to a vote. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. I move on to item 9.8, authorised delegation for variations to contract 2025008, Construction Quality Assurance Inspector and Geotechnical Inspection and Testing Authority, Consultancy Services for Landfill Cell 16 Construction. Ms Bennett, after that, I hope you've got a good introduction.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor, you did well getting the title out. The purpose of this report is to delegate the CEO or his delegates the authority to be able to approve variations to this contract up to a cumulative value of $250,000. The contract relates to geotechnical and construction quality assurance services for the construction of cells 16A and 16B at the Narragansett landfill. EPA require that we have what we call a GITR and CQA on site full time during construction to inspect the quality assurance for the works as well as undertake the necessary materials testing. Council awarded this contract for GITR and CQA services in June last year to Conversa. When awarding the contract, the resolution allowed for CEO or the manager to approve variations up to 20% of the contract value. Currently we're constructing cell 16A at the landfill and Conversa have submitted some variations above the 20% due to a number of reasons. One being the construction of the clay liner has taken longer than expected, which means that the GITR inspector needs to be on site for more days than anticipated. We've had to do some additional clay testing after having some initial clay tests fail, as well as there's been some increases in the cost of some third-party testing for some of the materials. These variations are all in accordance with the schedule rates that were submitted as part of the original tender. And it's one that, in retrospect, the contract probably would have a bit better been initially awarded as a scheduler rates rather than a lump sum contract due to the high variability associated with these works. A lump sum contract assumes a number of days on site and a number of tests, which is usually based on the minimum number of days and the minimum number of tests, whereas it's quite normal to have variations around the number of tests required, the number of days that inspectors need to be on site. So much so that we've actually already budgeted for these cost variations with the budgeting for the cell construction costs. To avoid, I guess, further delay to constructions as well as administrative burden associated with variations, it's proposed that Council delegate the CEO or his delegates the authority to be able to award variations up to $250,000. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Bennett. Councillors, there's a recommendation before us. Do I have a mover for that one, please? Councillor Castrain, Councillor Beard, Councillor Castrain.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Significant amount of money in the landfill, as we know, all the regulatory conditions that are put on us these days around the development and construction of the cells is quite amazing. It would be really nice if some of these funds could come back through the landfill levy that we pay to the state government every year. I think it's up nearly $2 million. So it would be great if there was some recompense to council for the amount of regulatory work we need to do on construction. Thank you. Happy to move this, and obviously, as Ms Bennett mentioned, just for the speed of getting this work done, I think it makes sense that the CEO has that delegation.
Yep. Councillor, thanks, Councillor Castrain. Councillor Beard. Sorry.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. I guess it's one of those contracts where it's a case of we have to do it under the EPA guidelines. We have to do the work that has to get done for us to build these cells because we need the cells to put the rubbish into. Doesn't mean we have to like it. So I think we all agree that we're pretty much over the amount of money that leaves Corangamite Shire and has to go to the Sustainability Fund through the landfill levy, and it's a shame, but I trust the process in which the report has come to us. Thanks, Ms Bennett, and yeah, it is one of those things that if we just sort of don't do what we need to do now, then it just prolongs the inevitable. But as I said, to our ratepayers, it doesn't mean that we have to like it. So, yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Beard. Any other comments? Councillor Canady?
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks, Ms Bennett, for such a great explanation of how things are unfolding out at the landfill and for helping us to understand why there has been a request for this variation. But, you know, I did pick up in your commentary that there has been some learning out of the way that we would do these contracts in the future, and, you know, that's a good thing. That's one good thing out of it. So, but I do agree that the delegation is a sensible approach, you know, given the way these works are proceeding and the delays that we obviously do come along. Not that we want them, but they happen.
Thank you, Councillor Canady. Any other comments? If not, I'll put it to a vote. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. I move on to item 9.9, contract 2026-001, management of recreational facilities. Mr. Broadbent.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. The current contract for the management of Council's recreation aquatic facilities is set to conclude at the end of this financial year. This report recommends awarding a new contract for the management of recreation facilities for 2 years, commencing the 1st of July 2025, with an option for an additional 2 years subject to council approval. This contract covers the operation of our 6 outdoor pools across the Shire and 1 pool in the Moyne Shire. I can confirm the tender was released and evaluated in accordance with Council's procurement policy. The preferred submitter has demonstrated capability and experience in the management of aquatic facilities across the state and is also the current operator of our pools. It is recommended that Council award the contract for managing recreation facilities to YMCA Community Programming Proprietary Limited. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Broadbent. Councillor, there's a recommendation. Do I have a mover for that one, please? Councillor Hickey, Councillor Beard. Councillor Hickey.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. The YMCA have proven over a number of years that they are very capable of providing the service of management of our recreational facilities, specifically the pool.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
Keep going.
And so, happy to award the management contract to them. Pools, of course, are very, very important in the Corangamite Shire. There's 6 of them, and our neighbouring one in Moyne, very, very important, but do require a lot of management over the summer facilities, and YMCA are very capable of being able to to encourage younger people to come along and work under their banner and learn management skills, but also learn other time management and people skills along the way. So it's a very important process that they go through, not just for the management, but for the development of younger people within our community as well.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Councillor Hickey. Councillor Beard.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. Aren't we lucky we got a tender, basically?
Mm-hmm.
But I have to admit, I'm probably relieved in some way that it is going to be a YMCA. I feel like even over the last 12 months, there's been a real strengthening of the relationship between YMCA and council, which has a lot to do with the partnership with our officer Jane Hines and Jared Woff. Obviously, work really hard alongside YMCA to get us the best possible outcome when it comes to the contract, but more importantly the reputation. There's been some things that have happened in the past where there's some unforeseen circumstances where it could be that they haven't had staff or haven't had the appropriate measures in place on particular days, but everyone's working really well together. So I would have been disappointed after we're starting to really hit our stride now with that working relationship. It had been someone different. I mean, often you can through creating change, you can get some betterment from that. But I really think we're doing well with YMCA. So I'm glad to see that they were good enough to come back to want to be with us. So that's really good for us and Moyne. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Beard. Any other comments? No more comments. I'll put the recommendation to a vote. All those in favour? Carried. I'll move on to item 9.10, Port Campbell Town Centre Revitalisation Outcomes Report. Ms McLaren.
Thank you, Mayor. The Port Campbell Town Centre Revitalisation project has reached practical completion, with a few remaining finishing works and rectification works now being finalised. The project upgrades the Port Campbell Town Centre with existing street infrastructure replaced with high quality footpaths, road surfaces and shared road pedestrian spaces. New at-grade and raised garden beds and rain gardens installed. The foreshore area has been updated with new sculptural retaining walls that provide informal seating and weather protection, alongside barbecues, picnic furniture and drinking fountains installed. Viewing platforms under the Norfolk Island pines have been installed, enabling new views out to the bay. Integrated art throughout the streetscape in the form of tiles and mosaics embedded in the footpaths and foreshore. A key objective of the project was to provide high-end tourism infrastructure that also met the needs of locals, with the project meeting this objective through the delivery of a new and enhanced town centre. The project was jointly funded by Council, State Government and Federal Government, with both funding agreements with the State and Federal Governments now being acquitted. Councillors, the report is before you.
Thank you, Ms McMahon. Councillors, as a recommendation, do I have a mover for that one, please? Councillor Vogels, do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Canady, Councillor Vogels.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. With practical completion reached, yay! Which roughly means it's in a usable condition with some minor work still that need to be finalised, as well as rectification of defects and omissions that still need to be taken care of. One such thing soon to be finished, which we're looking forward to see the completion of integrated artwork and the installation of the mosaic, which will be installed on the foreshore. Council will continue to monitor for defects and other problems that arise from behavioural changes that impact on the town of Port Campbell. But I would like to take the opportunity to thank the members of the Community Business Reference Group and the Steering Committee who have volunteered their time and local knowledge and provided important input over the journey, an often bumpy road requiring a large commitment and a large input from these people. So also I'd like to thank the staff and the contractors who have stepped up to deliver quality work and to solve many problems that have consistently and constantly been a challenge along the way. Every time we seemed to dig a hole, there was a treasure that we didn't want to find. But it's got there in the end. So I'd like to also acknowledge that there's been a lot of challenges for local businesses and local community from these works. But with the works completed and things getting back to some kind of normal, I do wish sincerely the Port Campbell community and the businesses the best for the future.
Thank you, Councillor Vogels. Councillor Canady.
Well, Councillor Vogels has said just about everything, but I mean, this has been a project that I think we've followed just about step by step from start to this practical completion stage. And look, I think it's certainly achieved one thing, and it's transformed the whole town centre for the better. And I think there is going to be a lot of value come from this project, a lot of probably improvement, you know, for the businesses, for travellers that pass through tourism. We're very proud of what's been done. There's certainly been a great deal of communication with the community and with other stakeholders to try and get the best outcome possible, and I want to thank Ms Lindley and the team for just an incredible effort, just the commitment to the project to get it to this stage, and I think it's a really great outcome. Nobody can be pleased, you know, by everything. That's a fact of life. But I think this is going to bring an enormous amount of value to Port Campbell and to the whole Shire. So no, I'm pretty proud of it. I think we've done well.
Thank you, Councillor Canady. Any other comments? Councillor Hickey?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. If I may, I would like to reiterate what Councillor Canady said, and Ms Lindley and Ms McMahon, who have spent a lot of time down there sorting the unwanted treasures that have been exposed by excavation, but also the work that Councillor Vogels and the time that he has dedicated to this project shouldn't go unrecognised, because I know it hasn't always been easy. I think what we've got down there is a beautiful project. I think in time, as everything settles down and the grass establishes itself and the plants all grow and the footprints get washed away with some decent rain, the place will be a destination of world recognition. So I think it has been done very well, and I do just wanted to acknowledge the amount of work that our staff and the contractors and our fellow councillors have contributed to the project.
Thank you, Councillor Hickey. Any other comments? Councillor Beard.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, and to you, Councillor Vogels, thank you for staying the course. You've certainly worn a brunt of the positives and the negatives, but you've always been really honest with us around the council table, so thank you for being the representative we needed down there. to Mrs. Lindley and to Ms. McMahon, thank you for above and beyond, along with project manager Aaron. I can only imagine what you guys have been enduring. I know there's been a lot of sleepless nights, and this hasn't just been over the last part of the period of getting it to the finish line. It's been probably throughout the entire process. It hasn't been easy. From when we first got, I think, if I can be honest, right back when the Shipwreck Coast Master Plan was first adopted and the vision of what Port Campbell was to look like, it was pretty, it was a bit of a dream, wasn't it, Councillor Gastroian? I sort of look at it and I think it was always one of those things was, wow, imagine if this ever happened. And you knew it wasn't going to be perfect because there was a lot of concrete in that, in that vision, particularly on the Norfolk Pines. But with the help of the community, many community members, many people that have sat around this table over the years, whether it be in an officer position or even previous councillors, everyone has contributed to where it's got to now. And it hasn't been easy. 3 levels of government working together, being funded significantly. Our biggest ever project, $18.5 million, which will, I don't think we're ever going to do again. I'm pretty sure we will never commit to again. But that in itself was a massive task. And then to have it play out the way it did in stages, whether we say it was ideal or it wasn't ideal, that's just the way it had to happen because COVID hit and everything, the curveball was thrown. So to think that we've now got to that point where, is it perfect? Possibly not. Is it amazing? Absolutely. And I think the best is yet to come, which is what's been said by my fellow councillors. But please just know from, I guess, particularly from me and all of us, thank you to everyone that's been involved in the process along the way because it's been a big one.
Thank you, Councillor Beard. Any other? Councillor Castrone?
I'll just make a couple of quick comments just because this project's been on the books for so long and it took us so long to get money from state government and federal government. I remember going to Canberra and meeting up with the local member Dan Tian and he said, please don't mention Port Campbell Streetscape because that's all I ever hear is Port Campbell Streetscape. So of course we mentioned it because we just figure the oily wheel, the squeaky wheel gets oiled, so eventually it did. It's been a transformational project without a doubt for Port Campbell. It's certainly come with its issues from an engineering point of view, you know, doing all the X-ray work we had to do with the Norfolk Island Pines to make sure we didn't impact on them, and so many other aspects of the job. And as Councillor Vogel said, you dug a hole and you just didn't know what you were going to get. So at least I hope that we've got proper mapping of all the underground infrastructure, so that is a positive. And I would like to acknowledge the inconvenience and the upheaval on local businesses and the people of Port Campbell. I think because of the unforeseen delays, it took a lot longer than we anticipated, and we're sorry about that, but we hope that you're pleased with the outcome. Thank you to the Community and Business Reference Group, the Project Steering Committee. They did an absolutely fantastic job, and as has been said to Mrs. Lindley and Ms. McMahon, and along with Aaron Huttig, the manager, the project leader, did a fabulous job keeping the community informed. So I'd just say let it settle, just give it time to wear in and become a really important part of Port Campbell and a great attractor for visitors. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Castrone. Any other comments? This is a question without notice, Ms. McMahon. Is there still an opportunity for businesses to get some grant money from us?
Yes. At the previous council meeting, there was a variation made to the Business Assistance Scheme that enabled Port Campbell businesses to have a streamlined Stream 1 application that didn't require matched funding. We are working with a number of businesses at Port Campbell, and that is open for applications until the end of June.
Thank you very much for that clarification, Ms. McMahon. And I too would like to echo what my fellow councillors have said around the table. I sort of liken Port Campbell as to buying a new pair of boots. At first they might be a bit tight and a bit icky, but give them time and wear them in, you'll love them, and you'll wear them out. And I'm sure everyone will wear out Port Campbell by seeing what great things it has for it. I'm quite enjoying the cast iron tiles from Vicky Cousins and the mosaic work once it gets put in place. So, and I too would like to thank the Community Reference Group. They've done amazing jobs through thick and thin. They've always been very open and honest with their feedback to council about how they're feeling about this project, and that's what we needed. So I particularly like to thank them for their job, and to Councillor Vogels, special shout out to you. You have worn the brunt of it down there, and thank you very much for doing that. Really do appreciate it. I think we can all sit back and enjoy what we've managed to achieve down there with the money that has been well spent. And I think from behalf of all the councillors, thank you to Miss Lindley and your entire team. I know you've got a whole team behind you, so thank you for all the work you've done down there, making sure this gets presented in the way it has and gets done timely, and communicating all the efforts and all the information that's needed to go out to the community. We really do appreciate it, and you've all gone above and beyond your job description, so thank you very much. If there's no other comments, I'll put the recommendation to a vote. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you very much. Item 9.11, Swimming Pool Season Review 2024 to 2025. Mr Broadbent.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. This report provides a summary of the operation of Council's 6 outdoor pools for the 2024-2025 season. Overall visits to the pools increased from the previous year. The total attendance was over 35,000 visits, which was an increase of 24% on the previous season. Higher attendance was attributed to relatively consistent weather, no cold weather closures, and some more events in the individual pools. Most pools saw increased patronage. Skipton did, however, experience a slight decline. School bookings also rose from 81 last season to 87 this season. Condition assessments that were conducted revealed all 6 pools built in the 1950s to 60s do need significant work in the future and investment over the next 10 years. The highest priority maintenance items have been identified and are currently in the draft 2025-2026 budget. It is recommended that Council notes the report on Council swimming pool operations for the 24-25 season. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Broadbent. Councillors, there's a recommendation. Do I have a mover for that one, please? Councillor Castrain, Councillor Cole. Councillor Castrain.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, we had over 35,000 patrons attended the 6 pools over the summer, and that is a significant increase, and obviously can be put down to the much better weather, as well as the number of events and things that were run by the YMCA, so early morning swimming, triathlon, Vic Swim, family barbecues, the aquathon. They all contribute to bringing people to these well-loved facilities. As Mr Broadbent has just mentioned, we've had a 10-year maintenance report completed, which was, well, it was a bit of an eye-opener for the councillors that were at the briefing to see the deterioration, particularly to the infrastructure beneath the pool. So work that needs to be carried out over the next 10 years amounts to about $3.7 million. So to be done, as I say, over 10 years, but there is an immediate need of $356,000 to be spent, which has been allocated in the 25-26 budget. The other thing that I thought was quite interesting was the total expenditure on pools is $954,000, which when you divide that by the attendance, it's $26.65 a visit. So they're certainly not cheap to keep open, and the message that we always say is use it or lose it. So we encourage people to continue to support the pools. Thank the YMCA for their management of the pools over the last few years, and it's good to see that they're continuing because they know the pools, the plants, operations so well. Also like to thank the local committees, as Councillor Kennedy mentioned earlier. They're all volunteers, and we certainly appreciate the time that they put into their pools. And just of a note, at the Central Pools Committee meeting recently, it was pointed out to me that Camperdown, as well as a number of the pools, are actually memorial swimming pools. So memorial to the first Camperdown's case, I believe, is the First World War, and the pool was mooted in 1920, but it took all those years to get the funding to actually put the pool in place. So that's why it sometimes gets confused with being an Olympic initiated pool, but in Camperdown's case, it's a memorial pool. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Castrain. Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I endorse Councillor Castrain's remarks. The pools are not cheap to run, all maintained, and as we know, as we've discussed earlier with one of the other motions, that older facilities are and equipment and assets are, the more they cost to maintain. However, swimming is such an important part of things that we must learn in life, because you never know when you're going to need to swim or being in Australia, being surrounded by water, we need pools to learn how to swim in and cope with any problems we may face. And I think it's one of the essentials of education that we all learn how to swim properly, because as we see by the statistics going up regularly, people get into trouble swimming and because they haven't learnt to swim properly in the early years, so it's so important. And I fully endorse this, that we need to keep maintaining our pools and keep them open and use them. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Cole. Is there any other? Councillor Constrain?
Sorry, I should have mentioned, Madam Mayor, and just Jane Hines and Jared Walsh from the Recreation Department do a great job with the pools, as well as our work staff. So our on-site work staff plumber, the garden team, they do a great job, as well as the building team when needed. So if you can pass that on, please, Mr Broadbent. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Constrain. Any other comments?
If I may, the pool's always been an iconic part of our community for as long as I can remember, which goes back to
before we had a pool.
Yeah, before we had a pool. But it's always provided an opportunity for socialisation, for people to mix, to meet each other, and to enjoy some refreshing cool when air conditioners weren't prevalent right throughout the whole community as they seem to be now. But also, as I said before, it provided the opportunity for younger people to get in and to understand the management of a kiosk, to understand the management of collecting admission fees, to work around behaviour that was acceptable to everybody and no one being excluded by unnecessary actions, by doing bombs off the high board that some of the people I saw used to do. So it has been a great opportunity it has been a great facility. The other thing I'd mention would be the committee of management who sit behind these pools, which are volunteers who see the best outcomes possible for their selected facilities. They do a fair bit of work, and they do a lot of work, and it's important that they understand just how appreciated they are in managing these particular assets. And the works and maintenance team, yes, we saw some photographs, some graphic evidence of some of the challenges that they have there. I'm sure the public would love to see some of those meetings with a description behind them, because they were quite evident that work needs to be done. But on the whole, the pools are a great meeting place. They still are. They reflect our healthy outdoor lifestyle, and the very fact that there was 35,000 visits last season reflects the fact that they are still very well regarded within our community. So.
Thank you, Councillor Hickey. Any other comments? If not, I'll put the recommendation to a vote. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. I move on to item 9.12, the Business Assistance Scheme, May 2025. Ms McMahon.
Thank you, Mayor. The report today considers two Business Assistance Scheme applications, which are both Stream 2 Creative Industries and Placemaking applications. The first is from the Camperdown and District Community House. This project supports the delivery of the Grow Community Program, which is presented in collaboration with Inner Bloom, and seeks to fund weekly hands-on sessions to activate the community garden and enhance engagement within the community hub. The funding requested is $2,000. The second application is from Kiangma Vineyard. This project includes the pilot for a series of monthly gatherings at the vineyard featuring volcanic wine, produce and culture. The aim is to grow the pilot into a recurring long-term series that boosts cultural tourism and strengthens community connection. The funding requested is $2,000. Councillors, the report is before you.
Thank you, Ms McMahon. Councillors, do I have a mover for the recommendation before us, please? Councillor Canady? Councillor Cole? Councillor Canady?
I was waiting for Councillor Cole.
Yes, so was I, actually. Sorry.
Look, this is a great scheme. This one, I just love that it's absolutely is an enabling support for our small businesses in the Shire, and it's good to see those that are watching out and taking that opportunity to make an application. I would recommend others to have a look at the business assistance scheme to see if they think they have a project that could be suitable for support. So, there is still quite a bundle of money in there still. I can't see how much is left. I'm not looking on the right page, but I think it's 69,000 still there. But anyway, it's there for to provide an opportunity for these small businesses and support innovation. When you look at the Myanmar application, they work really hard to provide some different experiences for the community, and I know they are enjoyed by many, but it's just that these things, with the support of council, are potentially leading to growth within the Shire, and I think that sort of makes it a doubly beneficial thing. On the one hand, they can get that support to help them undertake an innovation, and then that there could be some growth that comes out of it. The Camperdown District Community House, that's really quite lovely. What they're wanting to do there to provide that activity for members of the community. I see they're improving functionality and engagement with the community hub. Well, that's a really important thing for so many people within our community. So I'm very pleased to see that these applications have been successful. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Kennedy. Councillor Cole?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As it's a very wide-ranging scheme, it does all sorts of things. It can do business facade improvement, creative industries, placemaking, community enterprise, and fees and enabling infrastructure. So, as Councillor Kennedy said, the Camperdown District House, Community House one, getting people out in the garden to grow things and things like, etc., things like that. If anyone ever needs sheep manure, I've got plenty of it out there, and it's great for gardening with. So it's a great thing to get people outside and doing these different things. Same with Corangamite, setting up cultural tourism and community functions. It gets people out and about and doing things. So I completely endorse it.
Thank you, Councillor Cole. Any other comments? No other comments. I'd just like to remind people, as Councillor Kennedy said, there's still a budget of remaining of $69,000. So
there is, Mayor, just noting that we have had a lot of applications that will be coming for June, which is a really good thing.
Excellent, even better. Well, that figure will be going down further, and I like that. So great work, well done, team. Other than that, I don't have anything else, so I'll put the recommendation to a vote. All those in favour? Carried, thank you. I'll move on to item 10, other business. Councillors, do we have any other business we'd like to raise today?
Yes, Mayor, I've got a potential notice of motion that I'd like to raise.
What is your notice of motion, please?
My motion is that Council write to Commonwealth and Victorian governments to urgently reconsider the definition of a natural disaster to include drought events as part of the National Disaster Recovery and Assistance Arrangements, and to immediately declare Corangamite Shire and the whole of the southwest of Victoria in drought.
Do I have a second for that? Seconder for that notice. Oh, Councillor Vogels, we've got plenty. All right, Councillor Vogels, do you want to speak to your motion?
Well, thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the opportunity. Yes. There's been no significant rainfall in the southwest of Victoria for well over 12 months, probably 18 months realistically. It was great to see a little bit of rain in the last 24 hours, but this may just simply settle the dust, and we do pray that there'll be much more to follow. Last spring, fodder harvests were well below previous years. My district was down a good 60%. And fodder is being consumed, being chewed through, I've heard it said, through at an alarming rate at the moment. So most of the reserves that were in place after last season have been exhausted. Quite often we see a range of pasture growth around our shire at the end of May. Somewhere up around 2 tonne of dry matter per hectare is quite common at the end of May. However, there would be very, very, very few places of dryland farming that you would see anything like that at the moment. So in order to keep stock full, fodder purchase is necessary to fill that feed deficit. The availability of water is declining, if not exhausted, and runoff is needed to fill some of the dams that are very empty. So my background is dairy farming, as many of you know. I keep quite a keen eye on other commodities around. Cash flow pressures are certainly affecting farm viability. Budgets were completed, but we're not prepared for the increases in fodder costs that have been estimated at a very conservative $900 per cow, and possibly more. So it's $900 more per cow to feed them this year. On top of that, ABARE predicts the opening milk price this year of $8.60 per kilogram of milk solids. So destocking, cropping decisions are being made to try and avert some of the impacts of this natural disaster. Thousands of high genetic dairy, beef and sheep are being slaughtered rather than attempt to source feed for these animals. The farmer health issue. The disaster has taken its toll on the community welfare. Feelings of anxiety, exhaustion, very low mood, poor sleep, putting off jobs, weight loss, withdrawal are all signs of people who are under pressure. You just don't need to ask a farmer how they feel about the intrusive culling of herds and how long it takes to reinstate a herd with the animals that have been, the breeders that have been slaughtered. Certainly the ESVL hasn't, it's been introduced by July this year, has been detrimental to farm business and is certainly not helping with mental health. I was introduced yesterday to this booklet that's been made public by the Victorian Farmers Federation, Harvesting Change, Breaking Stigma and Building Resistance, and I would encourage anybody who was under pressure to seek out a copy of that. It's a very, very good illustration with some traffic light hints to be able to track how you're going. And just to reflect on the importance of communicating with farmers and their families by simply asking, are you okay? I mentioned the importance of agencies also, like the Rural Financial Counselling Service, like the National Centre for Farmer Health, the Let's Talk Foundation. Opportunities are, I see grants, the one-on-one consultations for business and also for all planning help that's available. That's all there and ready to go if you need any help in that area. Recovery. So how long is recovery really going to take? This disaster is not due to poor planning, but to exceptional environmental circumstances. And there will be a flow-on effect to fodder purchases, draining income from our shire, and this effect has already been felt on some of our businesses. So when the rain finally comes in a significant quantity, there will still be a significant lag time before profitability is reinstated. Herd numbers will take a long time to rebuild. Hay sheds and silage stack will take a considerable amount of time to replenish as well. So now, farmers don't want a handout. However, as a community, I believe we need a helping hand. We need money injected into our community through the pockets of farmers. Cash flow through this national disaster has decreased significantly and being felt through the service industry and other retail sectors throughout our towns. So simply by putting money in farmers' pockets, spending on pasture seed, on shelter belt plantations, on groceries, on new shoes, on infrastructure upgrades, right through to machinery replacement, can all be back on the board. And so to wrap up, Madam Mayor, I'm asking for the support of Council to seek the reconsideration of the definition of a natural disaster to include drought events as part of our natural disaster recovery and assistance arrangements. Farms and farming communities in this region urgently require financial assistance to counter the 2 years of unseasonally low rainfall, impacted directly by the difficulty in sourcing feed and decreasing stock water and the impacts of economic and well-being on our community. So as a minimum, I ask the Council seek the reintroduction for support programs provided to drought-declared areas of Victoria in 2009 and 2010. So thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, Councillor Hickey. Councillor Vogels?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. That's very well spoken, Laurie. I'm lost for words after that. You've gone through in detail a lot of the problems that we are facing. So this is a natural disaster in the fact the same as fire and flood, except it's a slow burn that goes for since last year's far winter that you struggle through, and then eventually when the drought does break, that's not all over. Then that's when the fire's passed and we can start the recovery process, which is a many-year thing to get through. So there's massive financial pressures, massive mental pressures, and massive physical pressures on farmers at the moment, which is no different to any other sort of natural disaster. And if it comes on a natural disaster, it sort of triggers a different level of funding from government. We also, when we put our hand out for help, it's very disingenuous to cop a smack with an extra levy or tax. That really puts people down and plays on people's minds as to when you've got your hand out for government to help, and all you get is punched down on. It really does show that they're not reading the room in rural Victoria and the things people are going through. We did get rain this morning, probably a fair bit more to call it the break, and then from there, especially with the this far into winter, it's a really slow road for the grass to grow and to get some sort of growth. Now, on top of that, there is no fodder in Victoria. There's grain, but there is no source of fibre, which is what costs the most to transport it and what's the most to back us in to survive till hopefully a really good spring and a really good harvest. I've also got, like you said, water problems, especially through the Hastbury, massive water issues, people on the last streaks of their dams, and water cartage is 10 times worse than carting fibre because of the sheer costs of transporting water and the sheer amount that you do actually go through. So these are things that the government really needs to step up and put some effort and time into looking at. This is not a handout for no reason. This is investment into the future of Victoria for your primary industries are where your wealth starts, that everyone else can value add to and build a strong economy for Victoria and for the country. So we've got broad shoulders, and we're happy for everyone to stand on their shoulders, and we can all have a strong economy together. But if you're standing on our heads, it all falls to pieces. So do implore the government to A, look at Laurie's motion and bring it up as a natural disaster, and B, look at the new levy, which was just replacing money that was always funded out of the general pool of taxpayers' money. So more money going in just goes somewhere else. So I think it's just you've used the volunteer levy so that people go, why would you support the volunteers? But we all support the volunteers, and we always have. And this has always been paid out of general revenue, and this tax will just go into general revenue, and it could actually fund anything. So to use the name and the firefighters as a reason for this, and your other emergency services, I think that's poor behaviour and just another thing that's come out of the big book of bad ideas. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Vogels. Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I completely agree with the two previous speakers. Just as a way of indicating what's been happening, last night apparently Timboon had 17 mils. There was about 10 mils in Camperdown. Out at Bukar we had 3 mils. Very, very welcome rain, but not much of it. We're just dust out there at the moment. There is actually a function at my farm on Sunday for CFA, for volunteers, for everyone to come out and have a look and around and see. It's a completely free function. One of the things that, as we were talking about, is the stock sell-off of animals. I know just on my farm, last year sold a third of the stock, and this year we've sold another third, so we can't keep doing that. I know some dairy farms, I consider myself still lucky in a lot of ways. I've got water, it is getting very, very short. We've got good bores which are good quality, but they're a long way down now. But I still consider myself very lucky in that regard. But the genetics, once they're gone and have their heads cut off, they don't come back again. Those genetics, they're gone forever, and that's the really hard part. You can build up a herd, it takes time, but you can't replace the genetics. And these genetics have been bred for a long, long time. They suit the area, they suit the environment, and they do an extremely good job. But once they're gone, you don't get them back again. So that's one of the big worries that I have about a lot of these things. And we've been culling in, we've been cutting down, getting rid of some of the genetics. I sold 10% of the cow herd on the weekend. I loaded some up 10%, and the cows unfortunately were in calf. They've gone, they've got their heads cut off. We couldn't afford to keep them. We had to sacrifice them to get rid of them to save the others. It's just one of the things we have to do, to sacrifice some to save some. It's a very, very unfortunate situation, but it's farming, unfortunately. We try and plan and put in progress plans and strategies to counter this, but this is out of the box. I liken it to what we call the Federation drought in 1900, which my grandfather used to refer to, and he said that went for 7 years. Unfortunately, we hope it doesn't go that long this time. But that was desperate times then. We're very fortunate now, as I said, nowadays we have logistics, we can shift stock around. They couldn't shift stock from here to Queensland overnight. Then they just died in the paddocks. We can get them out and get rid of them if we have to, and we do need to at the moment, unfortunately. There are a lot of people in a lot worse situations than I am. I know of people that have destocked. There's a place near me, 6,000 odd acres, it's destocked completely, or might have 100 head of cattle on it or something, very, very few. And others are thinking about it, so it's desperate times, so thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cole. Councillor Canady.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, my fellow councillors have described some of the heartbreaking decisions that our farmers are having to make when we're faced with drought conditions like this that have been occurring for over up to 2 years in some areas. And we're talking about primary producers who are known for their resilience, and sadly they've reached a point of desperation, many of them, and they're having to make very, very difficult decisions, and they're in a situation where a lot of their contingencies are expired. Farmers do make plans for downturn. They do make sure they've got fodder supply. They do look at what options they might be able to engage in difficult situations, but sadly many of our farmers have reached that point where all those contingencies are no longer available to them, and of course, as Councillor Hickey said, fodder supplies are running low, and of course, costing an extremely high amount of money. I think there's someone that lives close to me. I think he said he was spending $85,000 a week on fodder at this point in time. He does milk a large herd of cows. Having said that though, Councillor Hickey, could you actually read your motion to us, please? I don't know that you read it in full, did you?
I did, but happy to read
Sorry,
it again.
I mustn't have been listening properly.
Did you read it in full? Would you like it again, Councillor Canady?
Is that all right?
Yeah, sure.
My motion was that Council writes to the Commonwealth and Victorian governments to urgently reconsider the definition of a natural disaster to include drought events as part of the National Disaster Recovery and Assistance Arrangements, and to immediately declare the Corangamite Shire and the whole of the southwest of Victoria in drought.
Thank you. No worries. Thank you, Councillor Kennedy. Any other comments? No. If not, put the motion to a vote. All those in favour that we do? Carried. Thank you very much. Any other business, councillors, you'd like to raise at this point in time moment? No. Sorry, Mr. CEO, is there any questions from online?
Madam Mayor, there are no questions from the online service.
No worries, thank you. We have one person in the gallery. Would you like to speak today, Mr. Mulholland?
Yes, thank you.
No worries.
I didn't intend standing up, but first of all, I must apologise for following Councillor Baird because I wanted to talk to her about the landfill, how the contractors are going to be paid extra. And let me just in simple terms explain that every time things go wrong with the landfill bit, they have to put the price up because the landfill has to make a profit for the Shire. All right, now the people that want extra money, they're only supplying their time and they're partly to blame because they cost in excess of $1,000 a day. What else is coming up with the landfill is the state government is going to put on, I believe, nearly a 40% increase in the levy that landfills have to pay. That levy was originally brought in so as any landfill that had good ideas for recycling or whatever could dip into that pool. That pool now is being used to pay the wages of the EPA and that is virtually like giving the government more money into their internal revenue. And why am I so concerned? I'm concerned because already there's garbage being dumped everywhere because, as was pointed out, and I'll talk about the drought if you don't mind quickly, they're dumping rubbish everywhere because the price of the landfill has had to go up because of these sorts of things. And if it goes up much more, we're going to see a lot more of that sort of thing happening. And I'd just like to point out about the drought. Up until the beginning of this year, we were having what I call just enough, just-in-time rain, and things might have looked good as far as the growth of rain goes. We haven't had any rain. As a matter of fact, last night at my place, which was very average, because I spoke to a man that knows everything from Portland to here, and 11 mils of rain was about the average. That is the most rain in a 24-hour period we have had this year. And you might say, oh, well, you've only had 6 months of it bad. Excuse me, it's been nearly 3 years since a heavy rain has fallen in this area, which would have put water into a dam, and anyone that has spent money and done the right thing as a farmer, when you don't get any rain for 3 years, it's very hard and things are tough. There's even things going on like a lot of good farmers put deposits on hay. Their deposits have been reimbursed because that hay was sold for 3 times what the agreed price was. And unfortunately, when we've had 2 lots of floods up north, they've gobbled up all the hay supply. So there's no real hay to be got in Australia. So things, if we don't get rain and things don't come back to normal very soon, it's not going to be bad, it's going to be diabolical. And I agree with that, what Councillor Hickey said, because we're facing a diabolical trouble if things don't get better. And it's like the highway on the way to Warrnambool there. Now, for 1 week, nothing was done. And you might say, oh, well, it'll get done, it'll be right. But what does that really mean? It means that the budget for the next projects, there won't be any money for it because it gets gobbled up in this project, and our roads are deteriorating more. And what I'm really saying is sometimes we've got to stand up a lot more to things that are going wrong and people just getting paid out willy-nilly. And I just wanted to have a think, because things are diabolical as far as farmers goes, and we really have to get stuck into the waste of money, because it's a waste of money. Those contractors, what am I on about? Because there's a plastic liner goes over it. It doesn't matter a damn whether the clay's any good underneath or not, because the plastic liner is for when it's no good, and then there's a company getting paid a lot of money, but the people that go the tip are going to have to pay for it. And that's what I'm on about. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mulholland. There's no one else in the forum or in the gallery. I conclude our meeting. Can you please all travel safe on our roads? Can you please all look out for your neighbours? Yeah, we're all going through tough times, and we need to make sure our neighbours and our fellow friends are well and healthy and happy. So please look out for them, and please tap them on the shoulder if you think they're not doing very well. Other than that, stay safe and take care, and we'll see you next month. Thank you very much.